Tim and I met in July this year, and now 2 months later, he is the CTO of a startup that provides data and tools that empower companies to understand and enhance their interaction with the nature world. And Tim will later on tell us more about it. So first of all, Tim, hello, how do you feel?
Yeah, thanks, Tiffany. Pretty excited actually about the role in general and sort of the path that we've been on in the past couple of months. I think I'm certainly feeling more confident. The main takeaway I'd say is like that I'm not really overburdened by like a lot of the weight of tasks that I need to juggle right now. I think I have like the tools to be more focused. I can prioritize what matters. And I think I have the perspective to sort of figure out actually what that is. These are some of the things that I didn't necessarily have previously. So still a lot to learn. It's a long road ahead, but I'm quite optimistic that I can sort of even turn the failures on that path into opportunities. So yeah.
Yeah, that's so happy for you when I heard this news and you shared with us in the group. Now I want to know, what was it like in July, right? It's in our first conversation. How did you feel back then?
Yeah, so I mean, I knew I could be doing better, but like I was quite wayward in even defining what I meant by better, I think. I chose to explain everything that I felt was required to have like the appropriate context for some point that I was making. And that sort of made me feel like I was a good communicator. But like I realized that it wasn't working in so many contexts. And I was quite frustrated that that was the case. I thought that like coaching was something that I was actively looking for, although that I was like sort of very wary when I was sort of choosing who I'd like to be my coach. And I felt that there was a lot of people out there promising that they can get you to where you want to be without actually having the capability of backing that up. And so like Tiffany, I think that you were the first person that I found that I already sort of was adding value to me with some of the videos that you put out there for free. And you had that sort of, preconceived understanding of how you approach simplified issues that many people were facing, and also how to hook somebody and persuade them to achieving the outcome that you wanted. I think that sort of like, you remember that one of my hangups back then was sort of to do with like sales strategies and like advertising, marketing, and that sort of side of the business world, and I hated it.
I remember.
I felt that, yeah, exactly. And so like even the way that she sort of used that approach to talk to me about the course, like, I sort of had this reactionary feeling that this was like manipulative and it's an approach that I didn't like. But I've come to realize sort of how skillful and artful that can actually be. And so that's like a really big learning for me as well. And so I think realistically, sort of to summarize, like I was quite confused about a whole bunch of stuff. And so like I think that that's where I started from and when we started to talk. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. What was it that you feel confused about at that time?
Yeah, I think like what am I doing? Like I know that I'm like not comfortable with where I am. I feel like I should be doing something else, doing something bigger, but I'm not really achieving that some way. I think there's a difference between sort of like achievements and success, right? You don't sort of feel successful even if you are. And you can sort of list your achievements, but like, are they aligned to actually what you want to be doing? And what is that thing that you want to be doing? I had no understanding of what that was.
Yeah.
I had like, a vague direction that I was going in, but I couldn't ask why I was doing what I was doing. Sorry, I couldn't answer why I was doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, just generally confused about that direction, that path. What is it?
Yeah. How was that feeling?
Certainly uncomfortable, and certainly something that that I guess I'm sort of mad at myself about, like that. I think some of the questions that you asked me early on was like, why do you need a coach? And, couldn't you do this yourself? And I think that the way that I sort of answered it back then was that, yeah, I can. But there are ways to accelerate your success, and people who have done this before you sort of have that wisdom. And sort of that was what I could see with the way that you were presenting yourself and the tools that you were talking about. that wisdom was already there.
Yeah.
And that's sorry, that was what I sort of was gravitating towards. I could fumble around and try and figure this out myself, but like having some guidance certainly is very, it was really, really helpful.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So let's talk about, what do you think is the 3 biggest takeaways you have had from the 1% Academy program, as well our coaching time together?
Sure. So I think that probably the 3 things. I think that the one important thing that I learned was like that frustrating situations where things are like not going your way necessarily, they're not out of your hands. In fact, it could actually be many times it's you that's actually causing the frustration in the situation. And so like I reflect on so many interactions now where it's like a frightening amount that I realized that I could probably have changed it in my way that I approached the communication of the issue. And, thinking back, like, I felt like I was a good communicator already. And so realizing that that even like the first sort of situation that we dug into together, Tiffany, like we were talking about a work context where I felt like my boss was not necessarily hearing what I had to say. And I was even feeling unfair about decisions that were made outside of my realm of understanding of what was going on at the time. And therefore I was actually bringing that frustration out to my team, which was a sort of a really big problem, of course, that I was manifesting for everybody, not making sure that anyone was successful in that sort of situation. And so taking that context and listening to what you were talking about, and we sort of developed a way that I could have done that instead. And what was really, really amazing about that was that I managed to role play that situation with my old manager at the time. And we went through it and we realized that, we could have solved this problem in 20 minutes rather than the 3 weeks that it ultimately took. And so like that communication is the key to all of this. I think that's the biggest part that I've taken away.
Yeah.
Certainly,
I remember that conversation. We were rehearsing it on one of our calls, and it was not even planned in the very beginning. You just brought it up.
Exactly,
We're like,
happened.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, that's right. So I think the second one is that the preparation is key. I think that you need to know the outcome of any sort of situation that you want to have, and like how you're going to get there. And what I find really interesting about like the approach that you take is that this is actually very simple to do. Like there are simple sort of mnemonics in your head that you can understand. Like, this is what I want to do, and if you can have that outcome ready, and you know how you want to sort of structure the conversation, you can actually lead that conversation in a way that you haven't before. And so rather than being on the back foot, and this doesn't mean this can be with anybody or any interaction you're talking about, if you actually know what you're prepared to do and what your outcome is. Not many people do that, I think, at least maybe in sort of the context that, being a middle manager looking to go to the upper echelons of your organization, like you've been able to sort of generate a thick skin. You've been able to say, okay, I can assert myself into a conversation. I can defend my team. I can do all of these sort of things, but can I communicate what I really need, and can I get that done in a way that doesn't step on other people's toes, in a way that actually aligns with your boss's needs, the person you don't like in the organization, their needs, these kind of things. Like, if you're not prepared, you won't get the outcome you want. And that's where that frustration sets in. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You can say it without saying exactly the words. You can still help the other person to get a message, but without stepping on their toes, without offend anybody.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that the third big one,
I want to add, I remembered you structured and scripted the entire conversation in one of the meetings you are going to, and after our call, and then I've never seen anything like that. Like, you play that scenario in your head. Not only that, you even scripted the entire conversation.
Yeah. And that was a wild ride, that particular discussion. Like I think that we what I'd scripted and the expectation of the other party was very different, and so it was a very interesting interaction, because like I was really sort of pushing to sort of get back on the track of my script, and I was getting there quite a lot of times, even though like we had a very different understanding of what that meeting was all about initially. And I used that throughout, you know, most of the time that we've spent together, I've been looking for a new position. And so I use that in practically every single conversation that I've had with recruiters throughout interviews and such. And it's really helped me. Now I've got a big knowledge base of like questions that I have to answer over and over again, especially through the interview process, and like, you know, relevant, decent sort of foundational reasons why I should answer this question this way. And then each time I am at a new interview for a new position, which has slightly different reasons to, you know, and requirements, I will take that basic sort of structure and then I will modify it to sort of really sort of interact with like what this company is about and what they need. Even like little particulars of like the LinkedIn profile of the recruiter, and like, you know, they like dogs, all right, I can bring that in, you know, like, you know, these kind of things that, you know, this preparation has really helped. And the other person on the other side, like even if they don't know you, they can feel that you've done your homework, you know what you're talking about, and if they're impressed, then you can move forward, right? It's that feeling that you talk about a lot, Tiffany. It's like that's actually a big part of how you communicate. So,
absolutely, the feeling part, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
So
thank you for sharing this. Thank you for sharing that one.
I think the third one is don't compare yourself to others. Like I think that, you know, you're only trying to be better than the person you were yesterday. And I think that one of the big things that you taught me, Tiffany, was that like everyone has a different path, different life situations, different choices that they make. If you take a look at your job history and you compare your trajectory with somebody that you actually really admire, and you realize that it took them a long time to get where they are, do you have the same path in front of you? No, not at all, because you don't know exactly the details of what that path was, why they made those certain choices, why they needed to be in this space at this time. You only can compare yourself to yourself, and that stops you limiting what you think you can achieve. I think that's very powerful and very important. And there are going to be times when you're going to have imposter syndrome when you get into that new position and you realize, well, hang on a sec, I have no idea what I'm doing here. But you can handle that a lot more than what you think, actually. And so, like, you know, I'm in a CTO position now. I don't think that I've certainly not a huge company, right? It's a startup, and that's where I wanted to be, though. Like, you know, trying to find out where my goal was. This is actually what we have worked on from my actual goals. It's exactly where I want to be. Yeah. The CTO is not necessarily commanding a team of 500 people. We're a small company, but the title is not the only thing that's important here. It's actually what I am doing in that company, why I'm doing it, and why the people who have employed me now are actually interested in my skills and my capabilities, and they think that I am unique in that sort of situation, and that's exactly what I want to showcase. So you can't compare yourself to others in that sort of sense either. So yeah, so it's a big, powerful thing.
Yeah, I think absolutely. It's very easy to say, but it's difficult to do it. And first of all, most people only show their current themselves, the version, whether it's a success or the job they're already having now, but you don't know how they come to this place. And that's something, you know, you don't have access to if you don't have access to that person directly. And that's why this caused a lot of people trying to compare, because you're not seeing the history. You're only seeing who they are now. But everyone who has got there has their fair share of adversaries, their failures, their trials, their moments of self-doubt, self-questioning, self-limiting beliefs. Every one of us has it. It's just most people don't share. So I'm really appreciating you coming on this call with me to share your journey. And people would look at you, some of the others who are still behind you will be like, oh, he got there, and maybe because he's lucky, and maybe because he's knowledgeable and he has great education. But that plays a small part. There's a much bigger part behind it. It's the preparation. That's how your journey of how you come to where you are today.
Exactly. Like without going too deep into my background, like I have spent a long time in academia, and I've only realistically been in industry and the sort of corporate world for less than 2.5 years, I think now. And so I felt like I was already on a fairly rapid trajectory within my organization, but I was looking for, director roles or something like that, and I thought that was going to be a stretch. But as I say, you don't need to compare yourself with the others, because if you figure out exactly what you want to be doing, you go for that. And if you're prepared for that, you can achieve that. And then, of course, you need to walk the walk, not just talk the talk, but like, you do have those skills. Like if you've got into a middle management position already, that you actually understand that you've probably, if you're in the technical space, maybe you've already done IC work. You've got that know-how, you've got that knowledge. You're transferring that into, the unification skills that a manager sort of needs. You work on your communication skills. That's what's next highly valued. And if you can do that, then you can go anywhere.
Yeah. So. Absolutely. And I think another thing you said is really stays with me, because, well, my strengths, also my own career path was working in large organizations and climbing that ladder. And for a majority of the people, when they come to me, they say, oh, okay, if I don't get that position I'd like to have in executive level in this big organization, then I will sacrifice, and maybe I'll just go to a smaller company and be their chief, XOs. I actually think the way you approach it is exactly how I designed the program. I would like it to be, is to understand what you want. It's not really about job title. It's not really about achieving certain status at a certain stage of your life. It's more about getting that clarity. I think when we would start to work together in the very beginning, it was not very clear. We had the two directions, right? Then exactly. as we start to design more and more of your what do you really want next, if you don't care about other people's opinion, and then you get more and more clear on exactly what you want, because we were not just looking at the next 6 months or the next 1 year. We were looking much more ahead of, you have actually a very clear path of why you even want this job you are having right now, which is a perfect fit for you to achieve your long-term career and also life
Precisely.
goals.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So Tiffany was saying we had two paths, and one thing that I was really thinking about was like medium-sized companies looking at a director role, responsible for 30-50 people or something or other like this, multiple teams, because I thought that was what I needed to achieve my, as she said, life goals. But realistically, that wasn't true, or it might be true. But I also wanted to do this sort of from 0 to 1 sort of startup thing where there was nothing built, there was nothing there. I wanted that experience. I needed that experience for the goals that I've set for myself. And if I am successful in that, then the company that I'm in now could be that middle management sort of, a medium-sized company that has the large teams, and trying to figure out exactly how you profile that correctly and the interactions that happen there. That could be the space. So like, it could be 2 birds with 1 stone in that context if I'm successful here. So it streamlines what I need, and ultimately maybe that's not what I needed in the first place. It's just what I thought I needed. So either way, that's avoided a mistake on my path. It might have been more money. It might have been more visibility in a certain context, but not in the context that I wanted. So that was also very helpful to get clarity on throughout this process.
Yeah. What I'm really happy for you is you find the exact perfect match as you would aiming for. It's not just you choose something landed on your table. Whether instead you were very purposefully choosing and selecting, and in the end landed to this position, this path, and also the mission of your current company.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that was amazing. So yeah, can't be happier, really, for sure.
Yeah, and congratulations, really. I know it's just a start. It's not at all an end. And also for our journey to work together, I mean, you have lifetime access in the program. So I welcome you to come back, and we're gonna, help you to thrive and take on this new challenge. Now, the last question I have for you is, what's next?
Yeah, it's something I'm certainly going to be absolutely working on. And like, what's really interesting about this is that, like, we're only talking a couple of months of interaction that we've had so far, and I haven't even finished the modules that you've been worked on, right? I haven't even looked at module 2 and 3, and I know that this is the most important aspect of like the entire course. And so it's just the interactions that we've had over the coaching calls that has actually enabled me to get to where I am. And so that in terms of what I want to do in terms of my own growth, I certainly want to be engaged further in this academy. I want to make sure that I can pivot the questions that I'm having that are sort of coming into the group to sort of expand the space that the way that we sort of learn, because at the moment, like, there's a lot of people who are certainly like looking for new positions, but that's only one aspect of what this academy program can and should build on. Like, we want to make sure that when we actually achieve those roles, that we stay in them and we're very successful in them. And so I hope that that's something that I can bring to the table in that sort of sense as the program expands and becomes more mature. I'm also I'm looking at sort of 2 different directions in terms of my personal growth as well. Started taking a communication course, which is more like how I can sort of change my voice and change my change the way I use my body and things like this. And so, like, trying to make myself a better communicator, not only in terms of what I use in terms of speaking, but how I actually speak it. I'm also thinking, I haven't done this yet, but I'm thinking about getting a stylist, because like I wear t-shirts all of the time, right? I don't really take too much pride in my appearance too much. Like, I certainly shower and get out of bed and stuff, but like, I spend a lot of time in this tiny home office here. If I am a bit more in the public stage, which I want to be with the CTO role, I want to be, it's one of my longer term career goals as well, is to be a bit of a thought leader in the space that I'm in. So if I want to communicate that way, I need to look and feel that confidence. And so these are things that I'm also investing in myself. As far as the role in the CTO sort of space, I think that I'm right now I'm looking to build a team of technical people that are very mission aligned, and bringing that culture to the company that we have. And yeah, like, I'm hoping to sort of build that and be quite successful in this space. Thinking about the why of the company, the just cause that it's making, and allowing us to sort of have a unified vision, at least in the executive team, to be able to sort of make sure that this company is a place that people want to come and work. And not only that, like, also provide a very sort of deep, technical, sort of complex solution that enables us to solve some of the big problems that we have in climate and nature-based sort of realities of what we're facing right now. So yeah, certainly deep technical stuff, but also a lot of it's about people, and a lot of it's about how we can sort of take the message to make this sort of a very successful place to work and a successful solution for the problems that we're facing in the world. So yeah, just a couple of things.
Super exciting. Yeah. When you're talking about the stylist and how you should talk, I actually encourage you to now start to dive into the second module, which is actually about your future identity.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I mean, it will help you get clarity on what kind of stylist to hire and what kind of, communication, body language specialist to hire as well.
certainly.
It's super exciting for you. And also, I truly believe in the mission of your current company. I can't wait to invite you back and tell us all about it and where you are in 6 months' time. But thank you so much, Tim, for joining us today and sharing your story. It was truly inspiring. And I truly have a lot of respect for what you do and how far you have gone to.
Yeah, it's been an amazing journey. And it's only the start, I think. So yeah, and thank you very much for what you've helped me with today. I honestly don't think that I would have been where I am now without your assistance. I think it's been like foundationally like life-changing. So thank you very much as well.
Thank you for that. It's my honor. It's my honor. I should be the one. Thank you of letting me into this journey and give me the opportunity. All right. Well,
Right.
thank you very much, team, and well, have a nice day.
Yeah, certainly.